Ever wish you could just know what someone is really thinking? I mean, it sounds like pure science fiction, right? But what if I told you there's a real world blueprint for it? And it doesn't come from some psychic, it comes straight from the FBI.
So let's just cut to the chase. Is this for real? Can you actually, literally learn to read someone's mind? Well, the short answer is probably not like you see in the movies. But the real answer? Oh, that's where things get fascinating.
You see, the FBI isn't casting spells or using some kind of mystical power. They're using a method, a practical, step-by-step blueprint that's all about behavioral science. It's designed to decode what's going on right under the surface. And today, we're going to walk through that exact blueprint. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to cover the absolute foundation, finding a person's baseline. Then, we'll get into how to spot clusters of signals. After that, we'll unpack a pretty cool technique called the double trap. And finally, we'll put the whole shebang together so you can actually use it. So let's get into it. The mind-reading blueprint. And while that sounds like we're about to unlock some ancient secret, it's really about learning the art of sharp, focused observation. Everything, and I mean everything, starts right here. Before you can even hope to spot something that's a little off, you first have to know what's normal for that person. This brings us to the most crucial piece of the puzzle, establishing a baseline. So what in the world is a baseline? Simple. It's how someone acts when they're just chillin', when they're comfortable, not under any pressure. You know, do they talk with their hands? Do they bounce their leg? Do they make tons of eye contact or almost none? That relaxed state is your reference point. It's their normal. And this is where we need to bust a huge myth. We've all seen it in the movies, right? The hero looks for a single tell, like, aha, he crossed his arms, he must be lying. But the FBI method tells us that's basically useless. Why? Because for some people, crossing their arms is just how they sit. The real key isn't the action itself. It's the change from their normal baseline. Okay, so you figured out someone's baseline. Now you can level up to the next step, spotting clusters. Because a single change, a single signal, that's just noise. But a group of them happening together, that's where you start to get real insight. I love this way of thinking about it. One red flag is just a curiosity. A single deviation from their baseline could mean anything. Maybe they're just cold, or they remembered they left the oven on. But a cluster of them, multiple changes happening all at once, now that's a pattern. And that pattern is what starts a real conversation. So how do you actually spot a cluster in the wild? It's a pretty simple three-step process. First, you notice one thing that's different from their baseline. Let's say your normally calm friend suddenly starts tapping their foot. Okay, that's signal number one. Then you look for more. Are they also clearing their throat and looking away? A third change, like maybe they shift their body away from you. Boom, you've just found a cluster.
Now, this part is absolutely critical. A cluster does not, I repeat, does not automatically mean someone is lying. It just means their brain is kicking into high gear about something. It's a sign of stress or discomfort or some kind of internal tug of war about what's being said. So think of it as a big flashing sign that says, hey, get curious about this, not, hey, start accusing people.
Okay, so you've done the work, you established their baseline, you just saw a whole cluster of behaviors that screams something's up here. So, now what? What's your next move? How do you actually figure out what that cluster really means? This is where we get to the FBI's ace in the hole. It's called the double trap. And it's this deceptively simple technique for testing what you've just seen and, figuring out what's really going on. Let's walk through it. Imagine you ask a coworker about a project deadline, and you see that cluster. They look away, tap their pen, clear their throat. Step one is you ask a direct, calm question like, so, are we feeling good about hitting that deadline? Step two, you just watch. Does that nervous behavior pop up again? Step three, you follow up from a slightly different angle. Something like, was there any trouble with the data we got from the marketing team? You're just testing if their story and their body language are telling the same story. It's a way to gently poke at that point of discomfort you spot. All right, let's zoom out and put all these pieces together. Because this isn't just a handful of cool tricks, it's a complete, repeatable process you can use to better understand pretty much anyone you talk to. So here it is, your three-step method, plain and simple. 1. Always start with the baseline. 2. Look for clusters of change, not single tells. And 3. If you see a cluster, gently test it with the double trap. Just remember, the whole secret is focusing on changes and patterns, and your mindset, stay objective, and most importantly, stay curious.
Look, this FBI blueprint gives you a framework for much deeper observation and understanding. Whether you're in a high-stakes meeting or just having coffee with a friend, it is a seriously powerful tool for seeing what's being said without any words at all. So the only question left is, how are you going to use it?